All right, welcome back to another episode of the Empty Bettors Overtime Report. You know the drill. Usually it's a 10-minute and under gambling segment. We're going to switch it up today. We're going to do a 15-minute under Capitals and Penguins State of the Unions. Let's hop into it. All right. So we'll start off with the Pens. All of a sudden, it sounds like I'm not going to jump off a cliff, and the Pens have found their groove. They've won 3 straight, swept the road trip. They're 4-1-1 in their last 6. Sidney Crosby looks phenomenal, 10 points over 3 games on that road trip. I want to ask you guys, what do you think the Penguins are going to do for the rest of the season? Because so far we've seen them start off really hot, and then they lost 7 straight, and now they're on a 6-game good streak. So what do you guys think?
Well, according to what someone texted me yesterday at 10:01 p.m., apparently the Penguins are going to win the Stanley Cup. So
They beat the Blackhawks. How could they not? I mean, that's how it works, right?
yeah, I mean, you were saying that that's a team that for whatever reason they just can't beat, and yeah, that I would say they beat them. Yeah, I think I knew this was coming because this is what happens with this hockey team. You think that they're bad, and they're not actually bad. They're actually really, really good still for some reason. Somehow they've kept it together. It's functional. It clearly is clicking. It's clearly working. It's the most infuriating thing in the world. But yeah, I mean, Crosby looks great. I don't get it. They defy time for me.
I echo what Nick said. They're definitely staying afloat right now, which is what you need. And I mean, even though they don't have the flashiest record, it's not like they're the Devils or the Bruins or something. They're 9-7-3 right now, but they've managed to keep getting points. They're at 21 points in the standings right now, which leaves them just 2 points out of second place, really. So all those teams that aren't the Devils that are in like second, third, fourth, and fifth are pretty much right on top of each other there and separated by like 1 or 2 games. And then you've got sort of this Blue Jackets, Capitals, Flyers situation where it's like, I'm not sure if these guys don't start winning games soon, I'm not sure how much longer they can hang around.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. I mean, you essentially look at these standings and it's really in the Metro, it's Jersey and then whoever comes next at this point, because Jersey's already 13 points ahead of the Caps at this point in the season, which is pretty scary.
It's insane.
Who would have thought we'd be having this conversation?
Seriously,
that's unreal.
I mean, Mac, you nailed it with where that cutoff is. It is right in between the Penguins and the Flyers right now. And everything from the Penguins on upward, I would say those teams are trending up, and everything from the Flyers on down, those teams are trending down for sure.
What I will point out that I think is interesting is Harry mentioned that, Penguins have won 3 in a row now, you said. And if we look back just like 5 or 6 games ago, they were still in the middle of that like 7-game losing streak. And so what's really weird so far about this season is like how streaky some of these teams have been. I feel like the Caps right now are in the middle of what the Penguins were doing like a week or 2 ago, and like they've sort of flipped. So I don't really know what to expect out of like either of these teams' next couple of games. It's tough looking at the schedule because this time of year you almost feel like everyone's good, right? Like I'm looking at the Penguins' upcoming games here. They've got Calgary, Philly, Toronto, Carolina, Vegas. Like that, I mean,
St. Louis.
You could say
that's sick.
You could say that's a hard schedule, or you could argue like Philly, I don't know, they're kind of falling off. Toronto, who knows? Like it's really hard to look at the schedule and say definitively like, oh, they've got a really hard upcoming schedule, or wow, this is easy, because it's just, you don't know.
Yeah, they could win or lose all or none of those games in a weird sort of way. And
because it's early, I mean, literally all it would take is like, again, like Harry said, he's feeling good because they've won 3 straight. That's all it takes right now is string a couple games together and you're right back in the standings. So
I want to give shout outs to a couple guys. Rickard Rakell has looked incredible this season, just fresh off that new deal. A lot of people were skeptical. It's almost like I wrote an article about this on the Daily Goalhorn, but they put him back with Crosby and all of a sudden he's clicking again. Jason Zucker having a career season. That's huge. Hopefully he doesn't get injured, knock on wood. And Brock McGinn, I think he's got like 4 goals in his last 6 games. He's looked really good.
You just picked him up on fantasy today. Don't think I didn't see that.
I did pick him up on fantasy today. Shout out to Gino. Obviously 1,000th game the other night or last night against Chicago. Tristan Jarry found his groove with a shutout against Winnipeg. The only red flag I have is Chris Letang looks horrible. Like, he is bad.
Let's
He
go
has
back to
played
Jari for a
atrocious.
second before we really get into Letang. We'll get there, but I want to know what you think of like who's your goalie right now, Jari or DeSmith?
If you made me pick who I would start, a majority of nights, I'd pick DeSmith right now. He's hot. In the whole calendar year of 2022, I don't have the tweet in front of me, but I was reading it on Penguins Twitter the other day. I think he's got like the 5th best record in the NHL in terms of like wins, losses in the calendar year of 2023 regular season. I mean, he's been pretty good. So I'd probably pick him to be number one, but Letang's got to change something because he looks awful. So that's my thoughts on the Pens right now. And Brian Rust is cold too. So if those two guys can turn it around, this team can be seriously, seriously dangerous. But as of right now, I'll take being 2 points back of Carolina at Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that's a win. I think any way you slice it, for a team that was, like you mentioned, that was on a 7-game skid,
Yeah.
2 weeks ago. This is a victory for sure.
And Sid's tied for 6th in the league in scoring right now. So,
yep.
I mean, as long as he's humming, we're going to be fine. Let's take it 4-hour drive east to the nation's capital and chat some Washington Capitals. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on the team.
Yeah.
Who are 4 points behind the Penguins, by the way. So keep that in mind.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I said, it's hard to panic too much when you know that, like I was saying, you can string a couple games together and you're right back in it. So I'm trying to not react too extremely, but it is hard to be optimistic watching the team lately. They have lost 4 in a row. They're just 2-6-2 in their last 10. They are literally the only difference between them and the Blue Jackets right now is we've lost into overtime 2 more times than them. Like that's we're 2 overtime losses better than the Blue Jackets right now. So
yeah,
that's not great. One of the things I really don't like is the goal differential. We're -12 right now. And I think even worse than that, I don't have the stat in front of me, but the volume of shots that we're allowing right now is concerning. Like, first periods have looked atrocious in the last 5 or so games, and we're coming out of first periods looking like down in shots 20-5 or some bullshit like that. So that's definitely got to stop. You can't be asking Kemper or Chucky Mustache to make 20 saves in one period.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you nailed it. I think a great point you touched on was the fact that the first period has been terrible for this team. I mean, you look at that second of the home and home against Tampa, the Caps routed Tampa in the first one 5-1. I said in our group chat, and we all saw it, Tampa was going to come out guns a-blazing in that one, and they put up 3 in the first period, 4 in the first period.
What sucks so much is that first game against Tampa was such a good game. I was texting with some buddies about how it felt like a potential season-changing win for the Caps. Like, it was one of those kinds of wins where you're like, holy crap, like this is the kind of win that could galvanize
it was a playoff win.
It really felt like it. They killed off an entire 5-minute major penalty. They did a lot of really good things. They played a really complete game, and they were missing couple of guys, including Nick Aube-Kubel, who got bounced from that game. So it was a really encouraging win. And ever since then, I haven't seen pretty much anything I've liked at all.
No, and I think prior to that win, you and I had been saying that as of late, the week leading up to that game, the Caps were playing their best hockey in the first 5 and last 5 minutes of those games, respectively. Now I don't really know what's going on. You look at the game in Florida the other night. They lose 5-2. The game against St. Louis was really, it's like Charles Dickens, A Tale of Two Cities. This is a tale of 2 hockey games. The first period, and then the last 10 minutes that the Capitals played. I
mean, I liked that they showed a little bit of heart in that game. They didn't give up. They came back, but it didn't break our way in the shootout. I don't want to say we got hosed, but it was really tough to see that Nick Dowd goal not count with a minute left that would have won the game for us. I don't want to get into it too much, whether it was a good call or not, whatever, it happened. But yeah, that's pretty much what I got for the Caps. I'd say one thing that's encouraging is I heard that TJ Oshie was on the ice the other day in normal practice attire. So that's encouraging.
It's good to hear. And
But
Backy was practicing as well, right?
Yep. And as I've been saying on the pod all year long, if you've been listening, the one guy that matters most is Tom Wilson. So I'm not going to get too excited until I hear that he's on the ice practicing in normal attire.
I want to ask you guys about one player particularly, just because I've been kind of paying attention to scoreboards. Like, you guys got shut out against the Avs, 5-2 rout against the Panthers, and I know he came alive against the Blues. What do you think of Kuzi so far?
So it's pretty much the same thing I've seen from Kuzi since 2018, which is like when he's on, he's fantastic. When he's not, he's invisible.
It's pretty hit or miss. It's like he's getting like 3 points a night, or he's going like no points, no shots, -3.
Yeah.
It's a guy you would think has got to step up with all the injuries, especially down the middle.
Yeah,
definitely.
So
yeah, and a guy I'd love to see this guy shoot the puck a lot more often.
Yes.
We are just under 4.5 minutes.
Oh, we still got time.
Yeah.
What are you thinking in terms of goaltending? Because I know that you guys have been big Chucky Lindgren fans so far. Curious to see what you guys think of Kemper versus him.
I'm still sticking with Kemper as number one. I know that we've danced with the idea of maybe, switching up the order here, but I think one of the reasons why Lindgren has looked so great in the past is the team just seems to play better when in front of him when he's in net. And, I think that's something that just happens when you're the backup goaltender a lot. I don't know why. I would hope that this team would play better in front of both guys, but I think the St. Louis game is a great example of that. You yank Darcy in the first because they gave up 4 in the first. And then, they're able to have Chucky come in, and I don't think he let one in. I mean, if he did, correct me if I'm wrong, Mac. I think it was just one, maybe.
I can't remember, but I will echo that early on. I thought Charlie maybe was playing a little bit better, but it's kind of evened out now. And if anything, I think Kemper is doing more to try and give the team a chance. Like I said, I mean, that Panthers game the other night, the Panthers had 21 shots on goal after the first period, and it was only 1-0. And that's crazy. I mean, he's giving it his all. He's doing everything he possibly can. Team just needs to play better in front of him.
Yeah, and there are teams that don't get 21 shots on goal in a game.
Literally. Yeah.
Yeah. Worth noting, because I'm looking at the Cap schedule coming up. Flyers, Flames, Devils. Not awful, not great. And then you guys do your Western Canada road trip. You got Vancouver on the road, quick pit stop in Seattle, and then Calgary, Edmonton.
So that Flyers game is huge right now because they're 1 point ahead of us in the standings. I think they're playing tonight, so that might change, but they're right above us in the standings, and you don't want to see a 4-game losing streak go to 5. You want to nip it in the bud. You want to get a win right there and stay close to the team that's right above you, and hopefully try and turn it around from there, get some momentum going into that Western road trip.
It's an in-division game. That's essentially a 4-point swing right there.
That's the kind of game that at the end of the season, you're going to look back and say, fuck, we needed to win that game in November.
Well, hopefully you guys can do a little better on that Western Canadian road trip than the Pens, who didn't get a single win out there. So should be interesting to see how it all folds out. Yeah,
that game against Jersey is a big one too. That's, you're going to make the playoffs here, you're going to have to at least catch that team. So
they handed the Devils one of their only 3 losses earlier this season.
Yeah, they did.
And I believe Jersey, should they continue this winning streak up until they play the Caps, if they beat, they would have their 16th win in a row if they were to beat the Caps, and then they would have one more to tie the Pens all-time record. Jeez. That would be something to watch out for.
That would be crazy.
They're in a heated contest right now with the Edmonton Oilers 1-1 after 1. So something to keep an eye on. All righty. What we got on clock?
We have about a minute left, so I'll finish up with asking you guys this. Where do we stand on our panic meter? Where do we stand on is my team making the playoffs? Harry, let's start with you.
Could change tomorrow, but I like this team to be a wild card.
Okay. Mac?
Talking about the Penguins?
Talking about the Caps.
I have a hard time seeing them making the playoffs right now.
I would have to agree.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Is there any timeline on Wilson real quick? Like, have we heard anything?
Last I heard was January.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's rough. Anthony Mantha, you're up. Come on.
Yeah.
Let's see it.
Next man up.
That would be nice.
All right, everybody. Well, I think we're probably under 30 seconds at this point. So,
Yep, just about.
we want to thank you all for listening to this episode of the Overtime Report. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed. Keep an eye out for the Pens and Caps schedules coming up. Let's see how everything's going to shake out in that Metropolitan Division, and we will make sure that we catch you all in the next one.